Well, good evening, everyone. Tonight is a real live show. We're having satellite problems for a moment, and so we're a couple minutes behind the 8 ball, but nevertheless, we're up. A couple interesting and curious events took place. First of all, it is my contention that the British Petroleum Refinery was terrorism. How can anybody doubt the fact that on the 25th of March, the FBI gave a very specific briefing and said, be on the lookout. The minute it happened, they invoked the 30 to 60 second rule, and that is the worst, how should I say this, attempt to make anybody believe anything those guys say. First of all, you can't rule it out until it's been investigated. For the record, on my terror alert, March 25th ongoing, it says small, hand-delivered incendiary devices. Those of you in the National Guard, those of you with military backing know that gee, it's not tough to get those things, and it's not tough to find those things, and even if you can't get them, you can basically manufacture them. So I'm on record. Look, I'm the guy that put it up on my website. I've been talking about Texas, Houston, Galveston. Even one of my listeners said, don't forget, Steve, the Navajo power generating plant. And by the way, the Navajo power generating plant, I think, in New Mexico has also had a lot of curious events taking place associated with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a period where there is no truth. This morning, Holly called me, my webmaster, Holly Deo, and told me about a Pueblo, Colorado incident where basically one of their main water supply reservoirs had a disguised bomb attempt in an old camper with wires leading out, etc., into what looked like was going to be a makeshift explosive, shape charge explosive that would have, how should we say this, depleted that Pueblo reservoir rather quickly. I think it's got 374,000 acre-feet of water, so we're not talking about a pond. Now, I want to share something with you because, again, people just don't get it. And I want to tell you this, that based on the incident in Pueblo, Colorado, it appears that dry runs, surveillance, and planning are underway. Remember, and this is the thing I have harped on, meaning with the 1A, in other words, continued to go over and over and over, that al-Qaeda's goal is to attack America's financial infrastructure. Now, given the fact, what we're going to talk about tonight, that the West is facing one of the worst droughts in decades, water resources should be given the same protection as airliners, in my opinion. It appears authorities still don't get it. Somebody said maybe they don't want to get it, Steve. Well, I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's happening is just unimaginable with the faux pas and the absolute breaches of even basic investigative skills that should be present and resident in our basic investigating authorities, whether it's the FBI, whoever is saying that they know that it's this or that. They should basically go back to the old days when they didn't have to invent evidence and they had the best crime labs in the world, not ones with guys who came out of colleges in the 70s faking evidence. But needless to say, all, A-L-L, and I think Holly said there's over 70,000 or close to 70,000 reservoirs, dams in the United States. Now think about this. Again, we're heading into a drought. We're heading into what I believe is going to be a failure of food production. I believe at some time, not only will the water be poisoned, but there will be specific fears placed into the cattle market, into the hog market, into the genetically modified food market. And everything that we basically get to eat is going to be suspect. It's going to be like Mad Max all over again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I had Shane Connor on, and Shane gave everyone a real deal to get, the last MREs that he had, and for all practical purposes, those are gone. But he still has some of the trade packs. Let me tell you something. I was one of the larger food manufacturers in the country for the 3 years, 2 years prior to Y2K, actually 3 years prior to Y2K. And so I spent a lot of time talking on talk radio. The thing that people still don't understand, the average American has no idea what it takes to grow food, by the way, how much water it takes. They don't realize what it takes in both organic farming and non-organic farming to bring the produce or the protein to the marketplace. Have no clue. So clueless isn't only in Seattle, it's all over the place. And I want to share this with you. The military produces what are called tray packs, and a tray pack can feed anywhere from 9 people to 18 people per aluminum tray. Now, these are large, shelf-stable, and they're square cans, and they're designed for food service and other mass feeding applications. Each case contains 4 tray packs of 6 pounds, 10 ounces net weight per tray. Some tray pack menu feed 9 people per tray, others feed 18. It also says this, some tray pack menus of 18 items or more, with 4 trays, that means that one case, which costs you $64, can feed 72 people. Now, tonight I'm really going to hit the food aspect of what's going on in this country really hard. Now, again, if you go on my website, stevequayle.com, I was going to say stevequayle4you.com, stevequayle.com, or you can go on ki4u.com, and you can go to the food link, and it'll bring you there almost automatically. It'll bring you to a table of contents, so to speak. And what is happening now is what I thought would happen. Obviously, people realize that, gee, protein costs money. Remember this, beyond your basic needs of what you eat and what you wear, everything you pretty much work for, whether you go out to dinner or cook steaks or barbecue burgers or have halibut fillets or whatever you eat, whichever way you eat, it takes so much of your time to generate the income, or it took someone's time to generate the income to feed you. In other words, there is a formula, and I can't lay my hands on it tonight, but what a true calorie costs in terms of $1. If you figure out that, let's say, the average person needs like 2,200 calories or 1,800, 2,200 calories per day, multiply it times a month, times 4 people in the family, that will give you an idea. Divide what a family spends for the food they eat to get the calorie or caloric intake, and that'll give you an idea what you're paying for calories. But right now, the only thing that Shane has left in the tray packs are beef chunks and noodles with a really good tomato sauce. He's got, pasta and Italian sausage links with tomato sauce, lasagna with meat sauce, omelet with bacon and cheese, omelet with smoked sausage and potatoes, scrambled eggs with coloring, potatoes sweet glazed, rice oriental. By the way, sweet potatoes will give you a lot of beta-carotene. They've got some potatoes with bacon pieces. He's got some beans with rice and basin, apple dessert, blueberry dessert, pork and beans, potatoes diced with tomato sauce again. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not a lot of stuff left. So again, I would encourage you that if you want the best deal I know of in the country for the price, you've got to get yourself to call 830-672-8734. Now, a lot of people ordered beans and wheat and the basic staples of life. I guarantee you, you will suffer from food fatigue, if not an excessive amount of gas. Most people simply cannot eat, they can't go cold turkey, no pun intended, from eating a normal diet into the basics. It takes some acclimation. Now, somebody said, when you're starving, you don't care. Well, I can tell you this, it's no fun to dehydrate to death by diarrhea either. And Montezuma may have his final revenge, but my prayers is none of you listening to this program tonight. Now, this winter, and I'm going to read to you from the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration some of their statements. This winter has been one of the most volatile and variable winters that they've ever seen. Their experts expect drought concerns to continue in pretty much parts of the West. If you look at Texas, Texas is going to be toast, no pun intended, even down through the Gulf Coast. Now, what's fascinating to me is that as I have flown around the country, the parts of the country that I've flown over, and also as I get reports from truckers. Listen, nobody sees more of America, especially from the roads and highways and byways, than truckers. But the reports are, with minor exceptions like Wisconsin, for instance, that had a massive, massive rainstorm, most of the areas that I'm hearing are reporting way under normal levels in their reservoirs, in their lakes, in their rivers, in their streams. I've said it before, those of you who have been smart enough to acquire a little piece of property with an artesian well or a naturally flowing or occurring spring that occurs or starts to flow on your property, you've got liquid gold. I also am beginning to realize that I don't make the points sometimes I need to make and keep pounding them in. But whatever you've got stored in water, triple it. Triple it, everyone. Triple it. You can say, well, I can't imagine drinking this much water. Well, you need it for sanitation. You need it for a lot of for cleaning and cleansing, and you also need it just basically to mop down, wipe down, and you know, you can mix stuff, obviously Clorox bleach, but you need it for decontamination, especially in a liquid environment. We've got to get it through our heads that things are going to change dramatically. Now again, I want to share something. I've been in the food provision business both as a manufacturer and a seller. I was one of Mountain House's very first commercial clients, okay, Oregon freeze-dried food. I've also been an Alpine Air distributor off and on since Dennis Korn started the company so many years ago. I think it was almost like 30 years ago now, maybe a little more. So I've had my foot in the door and probably my hand in the refrigerator of these products as long, if not longer, than most people. But it became painfully aware to me that during the Y2K build-up and concern, etc., that no one put out what I would call a reality-based cookbook. Some people, there were a couple out there cooking with home storage, etc., but it left a lot to be desired. So I hired one of the, how should I say this, most incredible gourmet chefs named Sherry Haig to put out the Everyday Cookbook, Gourmet Cookbook. Now, this isn't just a pitch for a cookbook, but it's the ultimate cookbook because most of you don't know how to cook fish and wild game. You may not have ever used a Dutch oven. Dutch oven cooking is fascinating. It's one thing to have a bunch of stuff in your closet. It's another thing to know how to prepare it and have some different menu items. Now, this book is fascinating from the standpoint it's 4-color. It opens up with a spiral binding, so you can actually lay the cookbook flat. There's fabulous color photos in the book, and that's not what's interesting. The interesting thing is so many of these recipes were designed during the time. We had a kitchen in our old manufacturing facility, and literally this stuff was tried out on a lot of the people that worked for me. At one time, there were quite a few people that worked for me, and we pretty much went through a checkoff list on what tasted good, what people liked, the texture, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is in this cookbook, which is available only through me, the Everyday Gourmet, it teaches you how to apply some common sense to what you're going to be eating. Now, most of us probably don't know how to make rock chuck stew, and there's a whole wild game section in here. But first of all, I'm just going to read you some of these things, and you've got to understand you need this to know how to use the stuff most of you are acquiring. You've got conversions, you've got breads, cereals, pancakes, muffins, egg dishes, fruits, rice dishes, soups, vegetables, bean dishes, pasta dishes, textured vegetable protein dishes, sauces, both sweet sauces, cookies, desserts, extras, Dutch oven cooking, and then the fish and game. How about this? Italian venison and potato supper. Also some good jerky recipes. Not that most of us are signing up for breaded frog legs, but if you're going to eat the little suckers, you might as well know how to make them taste good. How about this? Trout with almonds. I think they call it trout almondine. Trout casserole with crumb topping. Again, oven-baked whitefish. Beaver. I got to tell you a funny story. You'll love this. I used to live in a place called Fridley, Minnesota. John, some of you people know out there where Fridley is. I think it was Anoka County. And my dad used to be into, this is years ago, when I was like 10 years old. My dad used to be into cooking wild and exotic game animals in our backyard. Well, to make a long story short, it was a very dry summer, and he decided we were going to have beaver a la rotisserie for the whole neighborhood. And you can imagine most of the kids and I were just going, yuck, gag, puke. But he was basting it with brandy, and evidently his spit wasn't designed right or basically supported right, and the beavers caught fire, turned over on the lawn, caught the lawn on fire, and set our whole neighborhood with a little, let's just say this, a little blaze. No houses were burned, no loss of lives, but let me say that if you're going to cook beaver, you better make sure that you do it the right way. Maybe the Native Americans have a better recipe than my father had. All I can tell you is charcoal broiled beaver looks really gross when it absolutely is caked black. So in our wonderful cookbook, and by the way, this is something that I forgot we had. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of these cookbooks available. And if you want to go on my website, you can go on my website and absolutely order them online, or you can call us out at our 406-586-4840, 406-586-4840. Please jot that number down, because again, as of Friday, actually as of tomorrow at noon, the 800 number will be no more. So our phone number is 406-586-4840. The Everyday Gourmet. It's very big writing. It's multicolored writing. It's just, I think it's a drop-dead gorgeous cookbook. I always go out to Costco and I look at the cookbooks that are out there, and this thing is a practical size. I think this one is like about, I think it's like 6 by 9. So it's not the standard 8 by 10, and it's like a giant multicolored handbook. And just for those of you that always want to know how many pages it has like 350 pages. So the Everyday Gourmet, and we'll be placing it on the front of our website, but the point that I'm trying to make tonight is this. It doesn't do you any good to have all this stuff that you can have in the closet. You're going to have to know how to cook it. And so in order to get the maximum benefit of the nutrition, and most people who are, let's say this, not adept in the kitchen, there's lists of seasonings and spices that Sherry has. By the way, this lady is probably one of the more famous decorators in the United States. It decorates, I mean, she's just got the Martha Stewart touch, and I mean, before jail. And the point is that a personality, very outgoing personality, but she spent so much time on this cookbook. I literally was present when this thing was made, and it took about a year to make it. Unfortunately, it came out a little too late, and I think now, as people finally recognize that food's going to be a big issue again, people had better start to put two and two together and get with the program. Now, again, Bob says this, Steve, the Navajo Power Generation is located near Page, Arizona, near the Big Dam on the northeast Arizona, I guess, border. The blurb in our Phoenix paper concerning over 25 sabotages of natural gas pipeline that runs through Arizona in the middle of the desert in nowhere land. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, I've been there. By the way, I used to cruise, Bob. You'll appreciate this. When I was into racing cars, I used to have to come from Bozeman, and I go down, obviously, through the Page area, through the Navajo Reservation. And another story, some of you will like this story. I was going 3 times the speed limit, literally, and at about 165 miles an hour in those days, and in a turbocharged Porsche, and a bunch of, this is when I was wild, okay? I'm now sedate, and I don't drive this way anymore. Wish I still had the edge I had in those days, but a bunch of sheep ran out in front of me about 2 miles down the road. Well, I was downshifting like a crazy man, and I literally was locking up my oversized brakes. And in case you don't know this stretch of road, it's just nothing but desert, and there are the, what do they call them, hogans, and a lot of sheep, and a lot of, sometimes you see some side Native American, what do you call them, booths where they're selling Navajo jewelry and stuff. So I'm very familiar with the area, and not to mention that one of the things I'm doing for everybody is putting out for my listeners, I'm going to put out a kind of like a magazine format book. My supporters get them for free of a lot of the photographs I've taken over 3 decades. In this same area, again, Bob in Arizona, I used to fly over and take massive amounts of aerial photos, especially of Monument Valley, everything in Utah. I mean, if it looked cool, especially during the morning, early morning hours, or late evening hours, I photographed it. So one of the projects I have is to put together this book, if God gives us a grace, and I'm talking about in the next 30 to 60 days. I don't usually wait around to do a project. I step right into it, and so that's what I'm up to right now. Kind of basically images that over my years of being a photographer I want to make available. I'll start posting some of them on the website to give you kind of like a little idea. But again, for all of those of you who have supported this show, it's going to be kind of my, when I say farewell gift, I don't mean that like I'm looking forward or necessarily getting off the radio. But I think since everybody's out there to destroy this fabulous place that the Lord God of Heaven created, I'd like to show you some pretty fantastic stuff that the King of Glory gave us to enjoy, and these mad demons from hell have to destroy it and make it look just like the region they left. So again, I want you to know that I'll be making that announcement. I'll be asking those of you who are my supporters, you know who you are, to send me your email addresses. The minute is off the plate, and it probably have somewhere between 60 and 100 photos. It'll probably be at least 11 by 14, and I think you'll enjoy it. I take some pretty wild stuff, and I take some, I think, some pretty different type photographs, but a lot of them that people see, they say they're just absolutely breathtaking. So again, that's a treat. I've let the cat out of the bag. Again, I want to tell all of you who have supported me these years prayerfully and financially just how much it has been to your credit that I've stayed on the air. You know, there are people that love me, there are people that hate me, but at least I'm one of those people that certainly can't be heard and no opinions drawn. Again, please, everyone, understand this. The food issue isn't about pitching you to buy something from Shane Connor or to buy a cookbook. What I'm trying to tell you is this. The people are getting very, very, very concerned that I talk to, even in, quote, the backyards or the backwoods of different government agencies, and they're all getting clued in. And you know, a lot of people didn't recognize that Y2K, even though, you know, the government said, oh, it would be a bad deal, they played along with it so it would give them the 3 C's, cover, concealment, and what's the other word? Another C that I'm missing right now, camouflage, for their deeds in preparing for the events that are coming. Now, I want to share this with you. The thing that's got everybody in the defense community worried, in the intelligence community, isn't that Yellowstone Park's going to blow up. It is the projection of the impact of what they know is headed towards Earth. Look, all of the plans to set up a deflection shield, a magnetic deflection shield, to use different types of nuclear weapons. Some of the nuclear weapons that exist, believe me, are beyond what even some of you nuclear physicists know of right now. Ladies and gentlemen, they are planning to absolutely try and deflect this, but this scares the you-know-what out of them. And it scares the you-know-what out of them because they have lost the C word, and that's control. And it's interesting how God always used stoning in the Old Testament to deal with sin. And now this country is going to understand what it means to be stoned, and this time not on hallucinogens, marijuana, or painkillers, but literally to have to deal with the judgment that has been prepared for this very time. If you don't think that's incredible, that God who declares the end of a thing at the beginning of a thing, and then makes it all come in time, as time is the mystery, but can sync up and link up all these things. I'll tell you what, there's a big difference in someone who's created going into rebellion and someone who can simply speak the worlds into existence. Which side do you want to be on? Or as Bob Dylan's famous song declared, you got to serve somebody. Let's see what we have here. Navajo. Okay, that's a repeat. Somebody must have sent that to me twice. Levens. Steve, this is from Kevin. Wanted to ask you and your listeners if they have been drawn to see the number 11 in variations, such as 311, 711, especially 1111. It's as though something in the Spirit is trying to warn me and my wife. This is happening to my wife, too. It's something about ready to happen. We see this in clocks, receipts, etc. I don't have the link, Kevin, but someone posted all of the 11s that were associated with this, and it's kind of a fascinating situation. So yes, the 11s are appearing, they're showing up, and they're indicating something that is very, very unique. By the way, silver closed out